Hello everyone and welcome to another very impressive game from round 5 of this year's Norway Chess, also classical time format. Fabiano Caruana, who's been leading the tournament, with such a lead, even if he loses today's round, it does not matter. He will still remain in the lead. His opponent is the former 2800 player Shahriar Mamedyarov, and this game is immaculate. You guys will see what I mean by this. And for those of you wondering, I've seen this question being posted in a couple of my videos. These are the highest ratings ever achieved in chess. So there you have it. Magnus Carlsen, highest rating was achieved in 2014, 2889. So he actually almost reached 2900. Fabi also, as you can see, was 2851 also in 2014. Seems like a lot of players just had their peak ratings in 2014, but second place is still occupied by Garry Kasparov with 2856. Then you have Aryan Levon with 2835, then Veselin Topal 2826, then Mamedyarov 2826, also as you can see a 2800 player. Wesley was also 2800, Vishu was 2800, Maxim was 2800, Hikaru was 2800, Vladimir Kramnik, Dinglir, and Grishuk, Alireza, Firouzja, Anish Giri. So only 15 players ever in the history of the world have achieved a classical rating of 2800. And also, you can see Yanni Pomnishi, Rajava, Morzevich, Ivanchuk, Karpov 2790, and then even Bobby Fischer 2789. But that was over 50 years ago. 51 years ago, Fischer had a rating of 2789. I mean, when the ratings were much lower, and he was like 100 and something rating points higher rated than Spassky when he was playing against him for the title. So there you have it. Just throwing it out there, as I've seen a lot of discussion about this. But now let's check out the game. You know what Fabi is capable of. You will now see what Mamedyarov is capable of. So Fabi has the white pieces, and he opens with pawn to c4. He goes for the English opening. We have pawn to e5, and now knight to c3. As usual, we will have the 4 knights of the English: knight to f6, knight f3, knight to c6, and pawn to e4. The Nimzovich variation of the 4 knights of the English. Bishop to c5, and now knight captures on e5. So this is all very standard stuff. We've seen it. Knight captures, pawn to d4, attacks the bishop and the knight, bishop to b4, and now d captures on e5. We have knight captures on e4 and queen to f3. And now knight captures on c3 is the most popular move here, but Shah goes for pawn to d5. And okay, Fabio of course knows theory, bishop to e2. We have pawn to d4, attacking the pinned piece, but this also loses the knight on e4. So queen captures on e4, d captures on c3, and both players castle to safety. So castles, pawn to a3, chases away the bishop, but first a nice Zwischenzug, c captures on b2, bishop captures, and bishop to c5. And here there is a game where rook f to d1 was played, but Fabi plays bishop to d3, and as bishop to d3 is the top move recommended by the engine, we can pretty safely say that Fabi was not thrown out of his comfort zone, or surprised in the opening by Shah in this game. And of course, as of move 14, we have a completely new game. So Mamedyarov is definitely playing with fire here, allowing Fabi, this beautiful bishop pair, to be pointed like this at the black king, and you don't really have options here. Your only move is g6. Other than this, you're getting checkmated. So g6, and Fabi goes for it. Pawn to e6. Looks like a pawn sacrifice in order to free up the dark square bishop's diagonal, but you can't really capture this pawn. For example, if bishop captures queen e5 and you're getting checkmated, you can't play f6 because queen captures on e6, and f captures on e6 isn't much better. I mean, still queen to e5, and if queen to e7, okay, guarding against checkmate, you allow all sort of nasty checks here. Now queen captures on h7 with check king to e8, and now bishop captures on g6. You are getting absolutely destroyed here. So instead, after e6, just queen to e7 by Mamedyarov, and now f captures, rook f to e1, adding more firepower to the e file. We have pawn to a5, not really worried about anything here, and queen to f4. We have pawn to f6. Now No longer you have to worry about all the tension here. And okay, a couple of moves ago, yes, instead of rook f to e1, let's say maybe you were thinking queen to e5. Why not go for checkmate? Because then f6 just solves everything. So that's the reason why it wasn't played. So here queen f4, f6. Now bishop to e4, putting pressure on this diagonal, not allowing b6 and bishop to b7, because of course Mamadjar would also enjoy putting his bishops there. Rook to a6. Now attacking the e6 square 3 times, and you will win that pawn eventually. And you could consider something like bishop to d5. Sure, it's definitely an idea, but Fabi goes for rook a to d1, and now rook to d6. Capturing, of course, you can do this. Bishop captures on e6, but it's going to be very tricky. Bishop captures on b7, attacks the rook here. Rook b6 attacks both of the bishops here. Now bishop to d5 puts pressure on the e6 bishop, and now queen f7. And look at this. Bishop to d4, saving your bishop there. You will play bishop captures on d4, rook captures on d4, and now bishop captures on d5. Rook captures on d5, and it's a perfectly fine position for both. Okay, Shach's king is a bit, more loose here with the f and g pawn being pushed forward, but should be perfectly fine. Instead, rook to d6 was played, and now we have a trade. Rook captures on d6, bishop captures on d6, attacks the queen, and Fabi moves it to h4. We have pawn to c6, now stopping bishop to d5, and here we have bishop to d3 by Fabi, defending the pawn on e6. The crucial move to consider here was queen to h6. This prevents bishop captures on a3 because it's very hard to actually defend that pawn, because if you go after it now, then you get destroyed. Just bishop captures on a3, queen captures, and now this pawn to e7 move. Sorry about that. It seems the mailman is here. I'll just sorry about that. The mailman was already here, so I didn't think he'd show up again, but what are you gonna do? Yeah, so if e7, rook to e8 would be played, and then this bishop captures on g6 is just winning in pretty much all of the lines. If now rook captures on e7, how do you defend here? I mean, you're going to get checkmated if rook captures on e7. There's even bishop captures on h7 with check. And now if rook captures, queen to g6 with check, and now after rook to g7, it's just game over. Rook to e8, you have to block with the queen. Only move, and after queen to f8, you're just going to capture. Rook captures, king captures, queen captures on f6, and of course the queen will beat the bishop and the rook. So that's that. The thing is, after queen to h6, you will be able to play queen to g7, and that's, well, could be one of the reasons why Fabi decided against this queen to h6 idea altogether. Now, you for example, if you go back, then Shach can also go back. If you repeat queen h6, you might even play something like bishop to e5, even allow the doubling here, or not the doubling, but the messing up of the pawn structure in front of the black king. But for example, h4, queen g7, queen back to e3, queen f6, you will capture on e6 next. It's perfectly fine for both white and black. But here Fabi played bishop to d3, and now Shach just captures the pawn. Bishop captures on a3, bishop captures, queen captures, and now he asks Fabi, what are you planning next? Queen to g3. Fabi prepares bishop captures on g6 if it will be possible, but Mamadjarov just allows it. He didn't play pawn to f5. Pawn to f5 seems like such a nice move. You make the light square bishop useless, and you don't care. There's no dark square bishop, so you won't get any problems along this diagonal, and it's hard to say why he decided against it, but he played rook to e8, and he basically invites Fabi to play bishop captures on g6, because now, especially with the rook not guarding f7, it's just a move you have to play. Just bishop captures and g6 check. And of course, you if you trade queens right away, then you throw in a nice bishop to f7 check first. So rook captures on e6. This was Mamedyarov's idea. Or of course, if you capture, then just queen captures on g6 and you get checkmated. That doesn't really matter what you do. If you go king to f8, then queen to f7 with check. If you go to h8, then you lose the rook with check. And then again, you get checkmated. So instead, rook captures on e6, bishop back to d3, opening up a discovery to the black king and also not allowing the trade to happen. King to h8, and now rook to d1. And all of a sudden, Fabi's position just became a little bit passive. He's down material. Okay, on the plus side, he did open up the black king, but will he be able to attack the black king? So here we have rook to d6, queen to d6, offering a queen trade, and now queen to f3. Of course, avoiding the trade. And now, how do you continue here? Queen to e7, of course, going for rook to e1 check. Bishop to f1, not allowing it to come with check, and now rook to e1 would be pointless. You would just capture, and after the queen captures, you play queen captures on f6, and you have at least a perpetual. So rook to e5 instead. We have pawn to h4, creating some breathing room for the white king. Bishop to e6, and now rook to d4. A nice rook lift, preparing to get the rook into the action. Also defending the c4 pawn. Now comes rook to e1. And now, well, Fabi does not have all that many playable moves. Queen to d3 is one idea that you might consider, going for rook to d8 check, also being able to play queen to d2. Fabi decides to go for queen to c3. He attacks the rook on e1 and also kind of pressures this diagonal. But Shah just goes bishop back to g8. And now you don't really have a way of attacking the pawn here. If you play rook to f4, queen to e5, it's not a problem. So instead, queen to d2 was played, now hoping to get some rook lifts in, but now queen to e5. We have rook to d8 and queen to a1, just going after that bishop on f1. And Fabi plays queen to d3 here, and this is another suboptimal move by Fabi. He definitely had a few this game, but you know, on the plus side, Mamedyarov is playing a brilliant game. He's playing with engine-like precision. Here, king to h2 is actually the move Fabi should play. Point is, you cannot capture on f1, because if you capture on f1, it's just a forced draw. Rook captures on g8, king captures, and now queen to d8 with check. And it looks like you might be able to get out of it, but whatever you play, white does have a perpetual. One fun line where you actually allow the black king to go down the board. Let's say queen to d7, check, king g6, queen to e8 with check, king to f5, g4 with check, king captures, and queen to e4. Now you control this diagonal, and you have a perpetual. King to h5, you're going to capture here with check, king g4. It's a forced draw, and all the other lines end up in a threefold repetition. Maybe Fabi thought that he was still playing for the win. It's hard to say, but he was incredibly low on time. He had like 10 seconds on the clock, you know, just playing an increment, so he had to be fast. Queen to d3 was played, and now just queen to b1, threatening to trade queens. And also, if you move the queen from this diagonal, you're going to lose the bishop on f1. In order not to play this terrible endgame after captures, Fabi just decided to play rook captures on g8. He gives up the exchange, and now after king captures on g8, now queen to d8 with check, hoping that he probably still has the perpetual, but now it is different. King to g7, we have queen to c7 with check, hoping to get some action along this diagonal. King to g6, and now queen to g3 with check. We have king to f5, and now queen to h3 with check. Of course, he will run towards the queen side. King to e5, queen to g3 check, king to e6, and now queen to g8 with check. King to d7, queen to f7 with check, king to c8, and now king to h2. Hoping for rook captures on f1. Then, okay, the rook leaves the e-file, so you have maybe better chances of a perpetual. But even though rook captures on f1 is winning, Shah will not even allow himself to maybe, you know, enter the area where mistakes are possible. He just plays queen to e4. And, I mean, of course, the position is completely winning. Doesn't really matter what Fabi plays. Queen to g8 check with king to c7, king to g1, defending the bishop here, but just queen back to, sorry, not there, that would be weird, queen to d3, and next move, okay, it's game over. Here, Fabi played queen to f7 check, one last spite check, you know, just for good measure. King to b6, and he was in this position on move 47 that Fabiano Caruana resigned the game, and he loses his first classical game in the tournament, or even his first encounter he didn't lose in classical or Armageddon. So absolutely incredible play by Mamedyarov. So it's not Fabi played bad, it's just that in those couple of instances where Fabi could have played the top engine move and maybe a suboptimal engine move, you know, it was Fabi responded with a suboptimal engine move, and Mamedyarov just played all the top moves. He absolutely crushed Fabi this game, and it's not easy. I mean, that a position where we discussed queen to h6, if you calculate all of this, I mean, you are a madman. So okay, he missed this, he missed a couple of other ideas. Shahryar took advantage of all of them, and he deals Fabi his first defeat in the tournament. And for those of you who maybe missed my previous video, here are the standings. So Fabi still in the lead because he was leading by more than 3 points after round 4. So it's Fabi, Hikaru, Alireza, Shahryar, Gukesh, Magnus, Anish, Wesley, Nodrbek, and Aryan. Those are the standings. Here you have the encounters. Nodrbek loses to Gukesh in Armageddon. Fabi loses to Shah in Classical. Wesley loses to Alireza in Armageddon. Hikaru defeated Tari in Classical. We've shown that game in the previous video. And Magnus defeated Gukesh also in Armageddon. So I might show one more game, as today is a rest day. If you guys have any of your own favorites from Armageddon, use hashtag suggestion and I will definitely go over them. And for those of you who missed it, yes, Hikaru Nakamura is the new world number 2 in classical chess. He overshadows Alireza, Fabiano, Ding, Yanni Ponachi, and Anish Giri, who are all, you know, fairly close to each other, some 4 to 5 rating difference. Absolutely incredible by Hikaru, who will be world number 1 tomorrow after another run is played. It's hard to say, will Hikaru continue this onslaught or will it be someone else? We'll have to wait and see. For now, Magnus is fairly safe up there with 2841. But yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Brilliant play by Mamedyarov, just showing you why he was a former 2800 player. When he plays, he just you know, he plays like a 2800. So yeah, really hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Michal Sakaris, David Gasparian, Brendan Fukuda, Niklas Wolf, and Andras Felinus for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this spectacular tournament until it finishes. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.